8.5 million people visited this place. They came here all through the summer of 1951. As soon as you pushed through the turnstiles and past the impatient attendants, there was a surprise, a sudden sense of space and leisured gaiety.
That's what we hoped for. We built it as a place to walk about in, a place, if you like, for pleasure. Now, the British don't generally like rhetoric in their building, and there are surprisingly few ceremonial avenues in our cities. On purpose, then, the South Bank had no processional way and no great vistas. On purpose, it didn't have the symmetry and the repetitive grandeur of some other great cities and their exhibitions. It was planned intimately, like rooms opening one out of another. Each room or courtyard differed in size, in shape, in color, character, and furniture. And the skylon? Well, that was a simple formula in 3 dimensions. A clear statement in steel and aluminium and wire. Every part of it did precisely the job it was designed to do.
And what was that?
Why, simply to hang upright in the air and astonish.
Wow, that was a blast from the past. The clip that you just watched was of the 1951 Festival of Britain.
The average Londoner, like all Englishmen, is fond of the water, but he's only indirectly aware of it. For him, it's an offstage presence.
It was a celebration of the British culture. It looked at the future through science and innovation. The building that you see is the Royal Festival Hall. It was the centerpiece of the festival.
An exhibition ought to have an air of gaiety, and the colours were as carefully considered as the forms of the buildings. Big Ben was withheld from view and then suddenly revealed. The site wasn't bulldozed flat, like a pre-war housing site, just to make things easy and level and dull. The smallest change of level was seized upon and used. There were flights of steps that led from one area of interest to another.
Its ability to attract ordinary people and show them extraordinary things is what makes it so unique. It is the ideal place to find the changing faces of Britain and the British culture.
There were the foreigners in un-English clothes who secretly got stared at behind their backs, while they were often amazed by this spectacle of the British at their ease. There were people who wanted tea and people who wanted a 4-course dinner with 2 sorts of wine.
London is an increasingly cosmopolitan city. Although most of the cultures and activities are unfamiliar to those in 1951, it still provides a series of surprises guaranteed to please. The Royal Festival Hall has hosted performances by the likes of Frank Sinatra and Louis Armstrong. In 1951, most of the architects selected to design the Royal Festival Hall were young. The government wanted a new modernist vision for the people. The Royal Festival Hall has always allowed young people to contribute to its success. Who else better to talk us through the history of this truly inspiring place than the Chief Executive of the South Bank Centre?
I think what we've tried to do with the reopening, this time in 2007, was do it in the same spirit of what happened in 1951.
I first came here in 1951 with the school.
I came during the Festival of Britain, and I came to 2 jazz concerts, one modern jazz and one traditional jazz. And when the traditional jazz, the Queen was there, and they had to play God Save the Queen at the beginning of the show. They made a bit of a mess of it.
My name is Bob Stanley. I'm a member of a group called St Etienne. We've been artists in residence at the South Bank Centre for the last year. We're making a film called This Is Tomorrow, which is about the history of the site.
I guess what we've tried to do is to respect what it was like in 1951, and it was a very interesting piece of architecture at the time and a major different statement of how you built buildings. we've respected that, but we've also made it a 21st century building.
Come here more often because you've got much more bars and restaurants and places to go and hang out.
You know, there's a lovely atmosphere as you go in. Everybody's excited to be there.
When I was a child at school, my cookery teacher used to sing here, and she used to drag a load of us along to sell programmes in the foyer.
And do you remember we came in 2001 when it was the anniversary, the 50 years, and they had a special concert, didn't they?
Oh, undoubtedly Brian Wilson doing Smile in, you know, in that year before we closed. I grew up on a beach in Australia, and Brian Wilson was always one of my, from the Beach Boys, was one of my heroes, and it was great to have him in the hall doing a world premiere of something that was written when I was 17.
You know, I think the fact he picked this place to premiere it says a lot about the building. I can't really imagine what it'd be like in another 50 years. It's funny because a lot of the people who were working here when it closed a couple of years ago had been working here for like probably since more or less since it opened. And I think they've all gone now, which is a shame. But maybe the people who just started, you know, just started their first weeks here in June 2007 will still be here in 2051. That'd be quite interesting.
I think it'll be massive. You know, people will come in their spaceships and, you know, be able to pull up on the river and, you know, fly over the building, and it'll be the biggest celebration you've ever seen, and I'm only sorry I won't be there.
That was then, and I'm glad to say that today in 2051 or the future, the Royal Festival Hall still stands celebrating its 100th year anniversary. Many things have changed since those days, and many different events have shaped today's London. But gladly, the Royal Festival Hall has led the way through those dark periods.
It is not a usual custom for people to dance in public in England, but here the place and the occasion seem to demand it.
It is still home to Britain's most exciting talent, just as it was when it was built in 1951. Over here, you can see people drinking tea, and over there, you can see people dancing, swaying and swirling to that special festival blend.
There were no resounding proud messages here. No one was taught to hate anything. At a time when nations were becoming more assertive and more intolerant, here was a national exhibition that avoided these emotions and tried to stay rational. It had a spiritual quality that is worth remembering.
The whole staff saw Brief City, you know, everyone in the, you know, and it was a fantastic experience, and the sorts of things that, you know, we'd lost sight of. What will the future hold? That it will keep on being relevant to people for, you know, the next 30, 40, 50 years, I would hope. You know, very much a part of, you know, the South Bank and the, you know, the southern side of the river, and, you know, I think that's a very important statement about London.
Who knows what the future holds for the South Bank and the Royal Festival Hall? Whatever it is, let's hope that the charm of this wonderful building remains.
Outside, there were the thundering dark bridges that lift the railway over miles of black Victorian streets. There were pubs for hurried beer drinkers and grey churches run up on the cheap. Outside, the soot and the smoke were in charge. Inside, it blazed with bright nursery colours.